It's time for Cutting Edge Consciousness with Freeman Michaels and Barnett Bain. Thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
I want to talk today about battlefield poets. It's a term used to describe people who, these writings that have come out of war, that have come out of very intense circumstances.
Children, oftentimes on the front lines.
Young guys who oftentimes don't have a great education, sometimes like a 4th, 5th grade level education, yet in the intensity of battle and the rawness of that experience, they're able to express themselves eloquently. And this speaks to a quality, the kind of genius, if you will, that comes when some of the ways that we might define ourselves, let's say, gets stripped away. It's kind of a core self comes out, this authentic self, this core self, this creative voice, whatever you want to call it, in those moments of intensity.
That's great. The presence. You know, as you speak about it, it occurs to me that you're talking about presence.
Becoming present.
Becoming fully present.
Fully embodied and fully in one's full experience.
In your full experience. So that on the battlefield, there is a certain kind of beauty in the horror. I'm not saying that in any way to suggest that battle or war is beautiful. But there is a beautiful presence in being fully aware. You know, people in these situations don't bring their histories with them. They don't bring their what I forgot to do, their coulda, woulda, shouldas. They're not about futurizing. I'm going to lose the house. I'm underwater here with my mortgage. They're fully alive.
Yeah.
And you'll hear warriors refer oftentimes to this heightened life vitality that they have. And the same kinds of language that I hear people, extreme athletes, speak of, who throw themselves out of off of cliffs, and bungee jumpers, and these people who are looking to experience a sense of themselves fully alive, fully in the moment. I think it's a way of making oneself accessible to the soul. The soul is, of course, it doesn't ask that we throw ourselves out of planes, or that or that we be in battle. But we ourselves have so many distractions.
That's right. That's right.
The soul becomes known either through beauty or through the total absence of beauty. And in the total absence, in that darkness, what becomes apparent eventually in that darkness in the battlefield, what becomes apparent, you strip away all dignity and all meaning and all sensibility, and in the end, what becomes apparent is that there is a lack of beauty, and in the knowing of that, you tap beauty. And so suddenly you have these youngsters with pen and paper, or their iPads now, who are writing these letters home that are so authentic, and that come from a place absolutely tapped in to an aspect of themselves that is communicating from beyond space and beyond time. That is a vehicle for an energy of such exhilaration and serenity simultaneously. It comes through as beauty. And on the other side of it, we can in our lives foster. We don't need to be
jumping out of planes.
We don't need to have our lives become more and more difficult as a way to tap soul.
Right.
We can make the choice to foster a relationship with what is beautiful and good and true, wherever we find it, in nature, in relationships, in solitude.
Right.
So many ways to tap in to the serenity of being.
And it becomes a practice. I mean, this is what a meditation practice is. I know for you, surfing.
I hope my wife finds my throat sexy. I hope, at least, Sandy, I hope you find this. Is this working for you, hon?
The experience for you of going out in the waves, of that being.
That's why I do it.
Yeah, yeah. And for me,
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And when I'm out sitting, even if I'm not surfing, if I'm just sitting there waiting for a wave, I have this gorgeous view of the coast and these incredible Santa Monica mountains that come almost right down to the water. And it's very unbuilt up where I am. And there's just these massive rock faces and chaparral, and I'm aware that they're alive, and they're in a different time. They're in a different time track, and this time track of millions and millions of years. If I could fast forward it, I'd see their aliveness. But there's such a dignity and stateliness and serenity to it. There's such a energetic to it. So I am very much in touch with the beauty of things, and I feel a part of it.
And the actual surfing holds your attention. And you've before said, when I get into my head and I'm surfing, I get slapped. I mean, you had a busted up, I don't know whether it was your leg or your arm or something, where you just you wandered into the distraction of the thoughts, and bang, you got slapped.
Since we had that conversation, I've realized something, another truth around that. And that is how little I am. We discussed this last time, and it provoked a lot of different kinds of responses. One of those responses, somebody thought we were dorky in the conversation, but I'm going to risk going down. I'm going to risk going dorky again, with apologies to our listener. So bear with us. One of the things that I discovered in the surfing is that how little I am actually in my body, and how mostly I'm in my head, I'm in my thoughts, I'm in my thinking. And I've been a surfer now for a lot of years. I realize that when I catch a wave, I'm not actually, until very, very recently, I'm not actually in my body. So I have never been aware of riding the wave. I'm aware of catching the wave and then kicking out of the wave. But the moment of being in the wave, my daughter always used to say to me, "Don't you look where you're going? I mean, you're going to hit me, or you're going to." And I would say, "I don't. Things seem to happen so quickly. I'm not aware." She said, "Well, you're a danger to people." But the reality of it is, I have not been sufficiently in my body, so that when things are happening at such a degree of speed, requires such an attention. There's so much information coming, faster than my ability to incorporate it and to respond to it. And that is because I'm not actually in my body. And when things come at a rate that is that quick, I, as an adaptive behavior that I learned very, very young, when too much data is coming at me, the fastest, safest thing to do is to leave. To get out of my body altogether. And that has become a modus operandi for the whole of my life.
It's an adaptive
when too much
survival.
Information comes, good or bad,
you check out.
I check out, and I'm in my head. And only now am I making the effort to be fully present. It involves some breathing into my body and being in my body. And I have rediscovered surfing, because now when I catch a wave, as long as the wave is not too gnarly, and if I get too threatened, I check out again. But more and more, I'm riding the wave in my body, in my element, in my world.
I love the analogy just for life, that there's these waves that come in life, these waves of stimuli,
Tsunamis.
Yeah, sometimes they are tsunamis, and sometimes they're little ripples. But the idea of being able to really ride them versus hooking into a response pattern that's reactive. Look, I'm in the middle of my own reactive response patterns. The surrendering to any given moment and all the parts of me that are bubbling up in that moment is more than challenging. And in moments, I know that I'm just doing my adaptive stuff. But the desire, and more than desire. Look, we've talked about practices. The practices that get me more present, that allow me to be more alive in various experiences in my life. Yoga practices, meditation practices, these bathing practices, this way that I'm constantly going back to these choices I'm making intentionally. that
in order to
be more present,
be present,
in my body. That's it.
Which is what connects us to. The paradox is only when we're fully present can we be open to receive something from beyond time and space, and that's what passion is, and or also, it's sometimes called eros.
Yeah,
the juiciness that makes our lives charged with exhilaration and serenity and beauty. That's what comes through in the battlefield poets.
Yeah.
That's also what comes through when you see somebody who is fully lit in making their life practice an experience of art. Not necessarily being artists. I'm not saying dancers, although often, you watch those great shows like So You Think You Can Dance.
Great show.
Those are people who are dancing not so that they can get a job, although that's a part of it.
Sure. Well,
but they are dancing at some point. It's a component of it, not to diminish it. But those are people who are exploring connection, and it's the connection itself that's the gift. It's the mastery of the expression of the gift is something else.
Yeah. It's the part of me that must be expressed in the world. I'm doing it anyhow. The fact that there's a way that I might be able to get paid for it, fantastic. But the idea...
It doesn't must. How's that for grammar? It doesn't must be expressed in the world.
No, the imperative for me is that there's a part of me artistically, creatively, that has to come out. I mean, hopefully constructively. If it's the... for me, I write poetry. I do these things.
But how about if you dial it back from... again, these battlefield poets that we began with, they're not sitting there writing poetry. They're writing letters to their loved ones.
Right.
It's not about... It becomes poetry because it's connected.
No, that's right. I appreciate that.
Poetry is a distinction that pulls us away from what it's really evoking, as is wonderful art.
Yeah.
Picasso, it's not about cubism. That removes us. That puts a mental thing around it. It's a connection to something sublime.
Yeah.
So when we are fully present, it's not about whether I am writing poetry or riding a surfboard. If I'm fully present, it's how I'm checking out with the bag boy at Ralph's.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have those moments. And most often, I'm in my head.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm really fully alive. And then everything becomes artful.
Right.
Everything.
Yeah. This is the art of life. This is the idea of being fully engaged in our lives and allowing for all these parts of us that show up in various ways, but owning them all. And
so we are poets, wartime. What was the language that you used? Battlefield poets. We are battlefield poets. The battle is doesn't have to be a war, but the challenge is: am I going to be here and now, and in my body, and in my world, or am I going to be in my strategy and in my agendas? And I didn't do this, and I forgot to get the milk. I mean, there's a place to be able to balance the two. There's a place to be able to do both. Right. To be able to get the milk, pick up the eggs, do my job, and to do all of those things tapped in to the beauty.
Yeah. And that's the opportunity that we long to invite in more of those moments to be fully connected, whether it's surfing or yoga or whatever, that there's a ritualized way of stripping ourselves.
Ritual is the thing.
Stripping ourselves of a lot of the distractions so that we can tap in. And that's a lot of the
It's
work.
a choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a choice. It was, if I say, so that says that that's quite revealing. when I am very honest with myself,
sure, about
what my priorities are in life, then I don't say if.
Yeah.
When I'm honest with myself about what my priorities are, I can then make the distinction about: do I prefer to be very close with the feelings that are coming up in me, and very attentive to the thoughts that are coming up with me without hanging on to them, and without making future stories, and without replaying things from the past. When I am aware of all those things going on, then I can see, well, what is my priorities? Do I prefer to do that, or do I prefer to just be here and now? But it's only, I can't make that choice unless I have the full menu, unless I'm aware of what the full menu is. And very often I'm not aware of the full menu. It's just happening automatically, and I haven't slowed down enough. Slowed down so that I can see what's going on, and then I can make the choice.
That's great.
On the battlefield, as you always hear these things that under the rocket's glare and with all the noise and all the chaos, there's a clarity. And
That's right.
things, they always talk about how it seems to go in slow motion.
Slow motion.
They shut it all down because the only thing that's left is what is beautiful.
It's fantastic. And with that, we have come to the end of another moment for us. Thank you all for tuning in, and we invite you to keep coming back to Cutting Edge Consciousness. Thanks for listening.